Welcome to Door Insider, where we take a deep dive into the mindset, the why, and the how of the industry's top entrepreneurs, leaders, recruiters, and salespeople. We are the Door Nation. Here is your host, Lee Barber. Let's go.
All right, gang. Welcome to episode 5 of Door Insider. Today we have Mara Best. She's with Legacy Power Notorious Division. Mara has been in solar since November 2020, so 1.5 years in door-to-door. 2022 year-to-date numbers on installs are 70. In the last 12 months, Mara has exactly 100 installs. And Mara works here with me at Legacy Power Notorious Division in Las Vegas, and I'm happy to have her on. So, Mara, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you in. So, I've had the pleasure of working with you over the last year and a half and watching your growth. I'm very familiar with your story, and the reason that I, really wanted to bring you on today is because you're fairly new talent in the solar industry, having been in for 1.5 years, so you're past your rookie year, but your accomplishments personally, not just in work, but who I've seen you become spiritually, mentally, your leadership skills, your door skills, teaching people, your tutelage, your servitude have all just impressed me greatly over the year and a half. It's been an absolute pleasure to watch you. And knowing where you come from and some of the struggles that you've gone through, I wanted to get you on Door Insider, not just as a shout out for strong women in the industry, but for just people who go through struggles. I love our industry because it's really pull your bootstraps up and do the work. So that's why I wanted to have you on.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I was shocked when you asked me, but honored. So happy to be here.
Your achievements are pretty great. So I always like to start the show with I want to go a little bit deeper with you, like I did on the episode that I did with mine, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
And go into kind of, how you grew up, because I know there was some diversity in that. And I love diversity stories. I'm a big diversity story guy because I think, the people who become successful in door-to-door have a little bit more grit and a little bit more tenacity than your average human being. And something in life toughens them up, and when they get to doors, they're kind of the equivalent of what life has made them to that point. And so I want to go into your story a little bit deeper. So if you don't mind just kind of telling me where you grew up, how you grew up, what the early years for you were like.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So I was grew up, born in Orem, Utah. I'm sure many listeners know where that's at. Very LDS community. My mom passed away when I was 2 from cancer. And my dad, he had 4 of us girls on his own. He remarried within 3 months to my first stepmom. And that, that was hard. That was a hard time.
Was your dad in the church?
He was with my mom. My mom was very religious, very into the Mormon religion. When she passed, I think he was just doing it for my mom. Mm-hmm. And then when he remarried my stepmom, we kind of just, I think, were a part of the LDS church just to be a part of the community. Mm-hmm. Because, the early 90s, if you weren't part of the church, it felt like if you weren't part of the church growing up in Orem, Utah, you were kind of the outcast, kind of the black sheep family. So I remember going to church every Sunday. My stepmom, she had 3 daughters of her own. So, and then my dad and my stepmom had a kid together. So that was 10 of us really quick. So I know that was probably a lot to handle, but there was a lot of violence growing up with that stepmom. It was a scary time. I just remember being in a lot of fear growing up. My dad, he was like my hero, right? I always cling to my dad, right, for safety and stuff. And so I spent a lot of time with him and my own sisters being raised. But yeah, childhood was weird. It was weird. It was a little bit scary. I started acting out really early on. I remember I was vandalizing restaurants. I was stealing from classmates in like first grade. I was picking up cigarette butts off the ground when I was like 9, 10, just to feel excitement, to feel different.
Yeah.
Like I always felt like, oh, this is why me, kind of. I kind of took on that victim mentality early on.
It's hard when you're young. So I really, really relate with your story. I had a lot of violence in my early childhood. I lived in Louisiana when I was younger, and even in school, they would paddle you literally if you didn't do good. But, you know, I had some violence in my home, and it was very scary. And, when my mom and my stepdad divorced, there became more violence. And it's difficult when you're young because you can't comprehend what's going on. And I think you're right. You like cling to that like excitement and you start acting out. So I really identify with that because it's terrifying, right? You're this little person in this huge world full of unknown things that are just acting upon you. And it's a scary place to be in life.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was different for sure. But I would look around, to my friends, and I always felt like they had these amazing lives with these big houses, like we didn't have a lot of money growing up. So I kind of envied and had a lot of jealousy, kind of felt less than really early on. And then, that's when drinking kind of started for me too. Early on in my family reunion, go figure, I drank Black Velvet whiskey for the first time at 11 years old. And when can I do that again? I loved it. I loved the excitement of it. Didn't taste that good, but I still loved it. I was doing
the feeling.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And, thank God, my stepmom and my dad divorced when I was 11. And it was just me, my sister, and my dad for about 3 years. And during that time, I really took on drinking a lot. 7th grade, I was skipping class. I wasn't going to school. I was just drinking whenever I could. Me and my friends were trying to find anyone we could find to buy us alcohol. And yeah, that was a dark time. And
you were 11
to 13. This is when this was going on. Me, my sister, and my dad. So it was like the three of us, the Three Stooges, So after that, my dad found another woman, moved us out of that city, out of Orem, which, I'm so grateful for. I always had a passion for sports. So when he moved me out of Orem, Utah, I kind of really focused on sports. And we moved to Spanish Fork, Utah, and I didn't have a lot of friends.
What did you play?
Basketball.
You did?
Yeah, yes.
Mara's a baller.
Yes. Yep. So that's all I did, man. We lived in a small house with a dirt driveway, but I begged my dad, please put a basketball court in there. Please put a basketball hoop, right? And so I'd go out there every day just practicing on a dirt road, like a dirt driveway with this basketball hoop, and I'd be out there for hours and hours, and then I'd go and I'd run the neighborhood, and my dad would take me to the church, and we'd practice, and he just taught me how to play sports. And I'm grateful for that time. It took me away from the drinking and the partying, and I really just focused on that. And I got some good friends in Spanish Fork that went to class and got good grades. And I just kind of became like the star basketball player through my junior high. No, that was cool. It fed my ego. It made me,
It's kind of cool to hear you. I mean, it's interesting because you look at, how people grow up, and it's, you go into this situation with your dad where he gets involved with this woman who has, some type of violent behavior that's inflicting upon the kids, and that, you really start to see like self-medication, right? At a super early age where you're going through pain and suffering that you don't understand. And then at 11, 10, 11 years old, you're self-medicating with alcohol because you're being inflicted upon by life. And then that situation gets removed. And then you take your energy and effort and pour it into basketball. What I love about that is that's one of my favorite metaphors to use, is that people like to sit around and talk about basketball, but to actually get on the court and move the ball down the court is different. But I was just thinking when you were saying that, I see some of that in you now where, you were going out and practicing. It's funny. We did an interview with Jordan Williams, and he had a very similar story with golf, where that focus and that energy, that self-drive, where you're just going out and running and practicing by yourself just to go out and get it. I think that stayed with you for the rest of your life. Just hearing that, because I see it in you now. So that's pretty cool to see you go from that to that. And so now here we are with basketball. How does that all go in high school?
Absolutely. So it did stick with me throughout my whole life. And we'll talk about that later, but I used to draw pictures of me in the WNBA. That was my goal. I want to be in the WNBA. I want to be successful. I'm going to be this millionaire in the WNBA. I thought that from a very young age. And, once I got into high school, I was still the basketball star. But during this time, I'm still in a, very religious community, and I start having attraction to girls. And I'm like, why do I not find any boys attractive? Why do I keep turning these boys down on dates? Why do I not want to go to dances? Right. And I start getting attraction to girls, and I'm like, this is wrong. I was taught, and I'm grateful for the Mormon religion. It taught me a lot of good values and everything like that,
Sure.
and I'll always be grateful for that. But I felt like this is something that was not acceptable, definitely, and so I kept it a secret all through high school.
When did, if you don't, just
Yeah.
for my personal, when did those feelings start developing for you?
I went and saw Honey, I Shrunk the Kids in the movie theater when I was like 6 or 7. I don't remember when that movie came out, a long time ago. And I was obsessed with that actress, that girl in that movie.
Okay.
And I was like, why am I obsessed with this girl? I went home, I couldn't stop thinking about her. I was like, she's so pretty, but I don't know. I've never felt this way about boys. This is wrong, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I struggled with that all through junior high and high school. But I got my first girlfriend in my senior year. But it was a secret, right? She was a lot older than me. I would go visit her on the weekends in Salt Lake City. But yeah, basketball was always right there. I got a full ride scholarship my junior year to Salt Lake Community College.
Really?
Yeah. So once I got that full ride my junior year and locked that down, my focus kind of drifted off. It drifted off like, oh, I have this girlfriend. I'm like coming out a little bit. I'm going to drink every weekend with her up in Salt Lake. And my love for basketball just kind of went down on the down roll, right? And
priorities changed.
Yeah, totally. So, during this, I take this full ride scholarship. I moved to Salt Lake. The second I moved to Salt Lake, that was literally when I was like, I have arrived, right? I came out, I told my family. They weren't really surprised at all. My dad was like, about time you told me. I found this love letter that you had written. I don't even know what he was talking about, but they made it really easy. My family was so supportive. They still are so supportive. And I have a lot of friends from Utah that did not have that story, right? They came out and their family disowned them. It's sad, tough. It's tough. Yeah. So I'm really grateful for my family's support through that. But so I go to Utah or to Salt Lake, and I have this full ride scholarship. I'm out of the closet, and the drinking, like all these people, I met all these lesbians, and they all partied, and I was like, that's what I want my life to look like. Yeah. Like no more basketball, screw that. I was playing on the college team, and every night I was out drinking with these girls and with my friends. And back then I could drink till 6 a.m. and wake up at 7 a.m. and go to practice. Yeah. Like I could handle it then. And that's what I was doing. But I was like sucking. I was sitting on the bench a lot, and my dreams of becoming this WNBA star just like no longer.
Went downhill.
Yeah. Now my dream is to drink every single day and party and just hook up with girls. That's all I wanted to do. So, and this is when like drugs started, and I was doing ecstasy and like other things, and I would go to practice like rolling, and I don't know how I was functioning or how I was doing this at all, but I remember going into my coach's office, and I sat down with her, and I said, I don't want to play basketball anymore. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I said, my heart's just not in it anymore. And I remember she just looked at me. She's like, in 5 years from now, I want you to come back and tell me how that worked out for you. And in my head, I was like, oh, I'm going to be fine. Oh, that'll be fine. What do you mean? She saw something that I couldn't see. All I could see at that moment was party, 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 girls, girls, girls. I'll be able to manage this and control this the rest of my life. I'll go back to school, after this phase is over, right? So, and that really stuck with me, what she said, because, I left.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
totally.
Your coach, yeah.
Totally. And so I dropped out of school.
How long did you stay for before you dropped out?
A year. Yeah. Yep, my freshman year.
Got it.
So once I quit, it was just when it all started. And from the age of 19, it was a liter of vodka every single day. Every single day.
So you got a little bit of the heavy drinking long term, alcoholism.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. I lived for the bottle. I did. I truly did. Once I quit the team, I was all on my own from then on. So from 19 to 23, this is when I was just like a liter of vodka every single day. I was still, a bunch of my friends still drank with me. I didn't feel so alone yet. It was just kind of the party years with a bunch of people. Everyone was kind of doing the same thing. So I didn't really say I had a problem yet, and I just remember going to the liquor store every single day, and I couldn't hold a job. And I was like, this might be a problem. I can't hold a job.
Something could be wrong.
Yeah, something could be wrong. But I see my sisters that they drink every night. Like, what's wrong with me? Why can you guys drink? And why can't I? And why am I not working? Why do I feel sick in the morning? Why do I have no momentum? Why am I obsessed with just wanting to drink all the time? I didn't understand what was wrong with me, right? And then I remember going to this liquor store every single day, and this lady, the cashier, she had said, "Wow, you drink a lot," And I was like, "Damn right I do." I was so proud of it back then, right?
Yeah.
I drink a lot. I could drink you under the table.
Hell yeah,
right? So I remember her saying that, and she said, "If ever I get the shakes, that probably," and I didn't know what that was at the time, but she said, "If I ever get the shakes, I'm gonna know that my liver's probably failing, and I probably have a problem."
Wow.
I was like, "Well, that's great." I didn't think anything of it. A little bit of
medical advice from the cashier at the alcohol store.
Yeah, didn't even think twice about it. I was just like, well, that's never going to happen to me.
It's crazy is our stories are different, but really, really similar. I started, drinking and doing goofy stuff when I was, 11 and 12 myself. And I'm just sitting here reminiscing on my story, but thinking about yours. It's like this habit that you pick up when you're young, and it changes your mind and how your mind operates with drugs and alcohol. I think a lot of people really don't understand. I prescribe to the disease theory of alcoholism, where it's, there's certain common things that we see in all people who suffer from this. So, I see a lot of the same things in myself when I was young. I picked up these behaviors and these habits, and it seemed to make sense for me because I didn't know any different. And then your logic just kind of follows that illogical path where you don't really understand what's going on. And the complete abnormality of it to everyone surrounding you, it doesn't seem abnormal to you. You're like, no, this is normal. Like people are having the, see me in 5 years. If your liver shuts down, you're going to shake. You're like, those aren't normal conversations. But I've had sat in front of people with similar conversations, and I'm like, yeah, it's not. I'm going to be fine. So your brain just kind of adjusts to it, and you just become that person. It's a crazy place to be.
Absolutely. I don't know why you're telling me this story, but thank you. Yeah. But I remember that. So from 19 to 23, those were kind of like what I was doing. I wasn't really sick yet. I was still kind of managing it. I was living with friends here and there. I couldn't hold a job, right? But I remember when I was 23 years old, I was a server at this restaurant, and I woke up one morning and my hands were shaking. And I was like, oh shit, like they're shaking.
She was right.
And the first thing I thought about was that cashier at the liquor store. And I was like, I remember what that lady said. She said, if she got the shakes, her liver's probably failing, right? And she probably has a problem. And all I thought about was maybe alcohol would cure these shakes. That was it. I quit my serving job. I went straight to the liquor store. I got a bottle. I drank liquor and it cured my shakes. And then that was the answer. It wasn't, I need help. It wasn't, maybe I should quit drinking. It was maybe more alcohol will take care of this, right? So from the age of 23 to 26, I literally don't remember much. I've tried over the years to remember those 3 years.
Yeah.
But it looked like this every single day. So I would wake up shaking violently every single morning. I was always living at someone's house or using up somebody to, let me stay with them. I would use girls into believing, I wanted to date them when I just wanted to use them up as long as I possibly could. So I'd wake up every morning shaking violently, so sick, sweating. And I'd walk. I always had a liquor store conveniently close to me. I don't know. How did that happen? I don't know. I got lucky. But I didn't have a car or a license,
I think you were choosing wisely.
Yeah, I guess so, right? Subconsciously. But I'd choose a girlfriend that lived right next to a liquor store. I didn't even realize it. Anyways.
Picking them geographically.
Yep. Yeah. So I'd wake up every morning shaking. I'd walk to the liquor store, right? And if I had enough money at that time and I knew I was going to get liquor soon, I felt better. And it was weird to me. Like I felt so shitty 10 minutes ago before I had the money for this, $5 bottle of Barton. But now that I have it, I'm on my way. I feel better, right? And I always carried a backpack with me. So I got to the liquor store and my hands would shake so bad that I'd have to put the money on the counter because I couldn't hand it to the lady.
Yeah.
And I got the bottle, I'd put it into my backpack, and I'd walk back to whoever's house I was staying at that time. Once I'd get home, I'd put a straw in my vodka and straw in my chaser because I literally could not lift my hands up to my face. The shot glass or whatever it was would shake so bad it would spill everywhere before it got to my mouth. So I would drink the vodka and I'd drink the chaser, and I always threw up that first shot. Always. It was just stomach lining because I couldn't eat, right? And I'd do it again. I'd shot of my vodka, a shot of my chaser. I'd stay down. And I'd eat like a saltine cracker every hour, right? To be able to at least have some food in me. But I wasn't eating. I was puffy. My hair was brittle. I had bruises all over my body and had no idea how they got there. And that was from the age of 23 to 26. That's all I remember is that waking up like that every single day and then being in oblivion. So I would just drink, pass out, drink, pass out, drink, pass out. That was my life. And, at the age of 26, I remember I was visiting my cousin and I was staying over at his house, and I woke up the next morning and something was definitely wrong with me. And it was different than all those other mornings, right? Like I felt, shaking and, detoxing and things like that, but it wasn't that. And I told my cousin, I said, call 911, call 911. Something's wrong with me. Like I felt like I was dying or something. I didn't know what it was. So we called the ambulance, and the ambulance came and got me, and they checked me out, and they rushed me to ICU after they checked my vitals and things like this. And they rushed me to ICU, and I was there for a few days, and I remember I was so in and out of it. And when I came to, there's 2 doctors came into my room, and they said, it was a good thing you got here when you did, right? You would have been dead in 30 minutes. I guess something was wrong with my potassium levels and things like that. And they said, you are not going to live to be 30 if you keep drinking this way. You will not, right? And that scared me enough to get sober for a little bit. I went into a detox. I went to a sober living home. I got sober for just a little bit, but, I didn't stay sober. And from the age of 26 to 29 or 30, that was my life. I'd get sober for a little bit and then just go back out. I'd get sober for a little bit and go back out. I didn't know how I couldn't stay sober. I didn't know I didn't want to stay sober, right? I didn't want to. I didn't want to do these things people were telling me to do to stay sober and stay long term. So I just couldn't see it. I couldn't see it. I hated being sober, right? Every time I'm sober, I'm irritable. I just crawling out of my skin. Like, why do this when I could just be drunk, And I lived that way for a long time until finally, I ended up on the streets out here in Las Vegas back in January of 2017.
So how did you end up from Salt Lake to Vegas?
Okay, so in Salt Lake, I got sober for a little bit, and I met a girl online, right?
Always has to do with the girl.
Always, right?
Always got something to do with the girl.
Yeah, so relocated for the girl. So I moved to California for a girl. She had 2 kids, so I was like stepmom at the time. Couldn't stay sober. Put those kids in a lot of danger, right? Babysitting drunk. Let them drive on the highway while they sat on my lap driving, steering. Whoops, right? I don't think about this stuff. I never thought about this stuff. I don't care.
It's not funny, but it's
right. Yeah, I don't care. So it was terrible. I mean, I ended up leaving California. I came to Vegas because my sister lived here, so I followed her out to Vegas. I didn't really necessarily want to move back to Utah. So I moved here in 2014 and got in another relationship. So my whole life is relationship after relationship after relationship after relationship, in and out of sobriety, Can't stay sober, burn my life to the ground, doing whatever I can, manipulating whoever I can, right, to feed my addiction, because that's all I could see.
The weird thing about, well, it's not weird. The reason I prescribe to and just so the listeners know, we're going somewhere with all this. I think it's just a story of massive adversity and achievement, right? And I wanted everybody to hear the backstory. Because if you really understand the backstory, then you really have a good idea for how powerful you are and what you've done with your life. Because, I'm sure all of the listeners have somebody in their family or know somebody that's gone through alcohol or drug addiction and have some idea of how tenacious and relentless and senseless and just crazy it can be. The interesting thing about, being an alcoholic and addict myself is that you really have this inside perspective of how insane it really is. It's like going through, and it's hard for normal people to understand, but the reason that I prescribe to the disease theory is because it's much like schizophrenia or clinical depression or clinical anxiety. I don't understand clinical depression. I don't understand clinical anxiety. I don't understand schizophrenia because I've never suffered for it. But I believe that the people that are suffering through it are suffering through a real mental disease. I just can't conceive it because I have not suffered through it. So it's really the same with addiction and alcoholism for me, having lived through it myself. It's this process of just dragging yourself behind, like getting tied to a horse on a rope and then just getting dragged behind the horse for years of your life through the desert and cactus and rocks, and like where you're just destroying everything, and then getting sober and then trying to figure out why everybody else is normal and I'm not normal and I can do this and I can do that, and just burning everything to the ground consistently, and everybody has to go through their own processes. And, I know people who have been going through those processes for their whole life. My mom went through the process for her whole life. Some people never figure it out. but it's interesting to hear your story because it's so similar to everybody else with the disease, but so unique in its own way because, you're going through your life and these memories that we have of just burning things down and hurting people and using people, it becomes very selfish. And I think that that's one of the biggest things that we have to learn is how to become unselfish and how to give. I think that's one of the most amazing parts of your story. We'll get into that later, but just who you become as a human, changing from that self-serving individual, because that's really what, addiction and alcoholism ends up being. You're just serving yourself, right? You're going to step over life. You're going to step over family. You're going to step over friends. You're going to step over people. You're going to manipulate situations. You're going to lie, cheat, and steal your way through relationships and life and anything that you can do because you're in this, mental insanity of this massive obsession to keep doing what you're doing. And it's a very selfish thing, right? Because anybody from the outside that looks at it, and I do this now because I'm sober. I look at people going through it and I'm like, Jesus, just stop. That doesn't make sense. Don't do that anymore. But they can't. So it's a weird thing that we go through, so hearing your story, I haven't heard your story in this depth, and it's really interesting to hear it because you get a perspective on, now I know you so well, how different you are now. So it's just amazing.
Yeah,
so here we are in Vegas.
Yes.
How does Vegas go? So Salt Lake City was a fun ride. How does Vegas go? Yeah.
Right. So I get to Vegas.
Let's go.
I think I have I managed to get 9 months of sobriety under me by the time I get here. And I'm living with my sister here in Las Vegas. I get a job, I'm serving, and I get on Craigslist. I want a roommate. Right. And I interviewed a few people, and the people I chose was a lesbian couple that had bottles and bottles of liquor just surrounding their kitchen walls. I was like, this is it.
These are my people right here.
Yep. I'm sober. Yeah. I'm going to stay sober for sure.
For sure.
But I'm going to move into this house with about 30 full bottles of liquor, right? Just in case.
Yeah.
So I end up living there. I end up drinking up all their liquor one day. I get kicked out of that house. I get into a relationship. I'm still serving. I'm just back and forth. In my recovery, and finally, I got to a point where not one of my family members would answer my calls anymore. Mm-hmm. No one would deal with my shit any longer. I couldn't manipulate one more person to let me crash on their couch, right? And I'm homeless. I find myself homeless on the streets of Las Vegas here in January 2017, and I'm in a relationship, of course, and we're just running the streets together.
Was your girlfriend homeless at the time?
Yep. So we both were homeless together, running the streets, just, doing whatever we could. And this one, I got really, really into drugs, right at this time. I'm really into meth. I'm doing a lot of meth. I've never done a lot of meth before, and I didn't realize what doing a lot of meth would do to your brain. Mm-hmm. And I went quickly into a psychosis, right? Mm-hmm. And I tell these stories that I don't even know is real or not. It was real to me. It was very real to me, but I'm not sure if it was reality, right? So I was having conversations with people that weren't there. I thought I was in a movie. So I literally thought I was in a movie, and the directors were filming me, and I was supposed to do all these things for this movie I was in. So I would break in, I would do things break in a car, do things, right?
The stuff we do.
Yes. And, but to me, I was in a movie and I was supposed to do these things, and I never got caught for it. And I was like, that's because I'm in a movie and they're not going to bust me. I'm the star of the show. And that was that was literally my reality. Yeah. And I lived this way for about 7 months in a very deep psychosis. And I was sleeping on top of the Todd's Motel off Las Vegas Boulevard. It's a abandoned hotel right there. Mm-hmm. I'm sleeping on the roof. I wake up every morning, just, what's today going to bring? Right. I need to get more drugs. I need to get liquor. Cause I'll get sick if I don't have either. Now I'm to a point where they go hand in hand together. I am, sleeping in Obanas. I'm sleeping on the side of the road. And finally I find the tunnel people, right? I find the tunnel people, and I make friends with them. And
so just for our listeners, so my wife Misty and I had an opportunity for a couple months to go down into the Las Vegas tunnels with a group called Shine a Light, and it's a great group. They go down and help people that are homeless that live in these tunnels. So in Las Vegas, you can actually Google it or YouTube it if you want a little more information on it. But it's, you can Google tunnel people or YouTube it. There's hundreds of miles of these storm tunnels in Las Vegas, under the strip, around the strip, all over the city. and they're really waterways, but they're huge. You can stand up in them. They're literally miles and miles of these things, and people live in there in the winter and the summer. It just all around the year, and it's a really tough life. I was homeless. I was homeless in Hawaii, so I can't, like, I was sleeping in a stairwell in Hawaii. I remember I would get kicked out, but then I would just go lay on the beach behind a brick wall. So it wasn't too tough. As the tunnels, and going down in the tunnels, you really get, it's intense. It's an intense life. It's an intense community. It's homeless, but it's a very unique type of homeless. It's tough. It's raw. It's really gritty down there. There's a lot of serious stuff. I mean, Misty and I would walk down the tunnels. You have flashlights, and you're giving out socks and different things to people, food who need stuff. And it's, I'm a pretty big guy, and I can handle myself, but it's intimidating. It's an intimidating environment. There was some scary moments where you're in just some really, people, you just cannot determine what somebody's going to do when they're on drugs. So the tunnels in Vegas they're pretty, it's sketch down there. It's an intense place to live. So there you are, you find yourself from the roof to the tunnels.
Yeah.
How does that transition go?
Yeah, it was great. I was like, wow, there's shelter, it's not so hot.
Yeah.
Being right under the Vegas sun on the rooftop, right?
It's amazing the rationale you develop.
I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
Literally, and I tell people this a lot, as long as I had liquor, I don't care where I was. If I was in a penthouse or I was in the tunnels, as long as I had that relief that alcohol gave me my whole life, I was cool, right? I would strut around downtown like I was somebody, because that's what liquor did for me. I'd have my little $2.13 pint of Barton's vodka in my back pocket, and I'd be strutting like I own the place. Yeah, because that's what it did for me, and that's what I live for. So when I hit the tunnels, I'm like, oh, these people, they're my people, right? I just they're my people. Let's go, right? Yep. Every day we'd go out and hustle. We'd bring something to the the little council. So there's like a council.
Which one were you at, if you don't mind?
I was mostly at the Koval and Flamingo location right there by the Meridian condos. Yep. So the Meridian condos are a timeshare. I shouldn't go into this story a little bit, so I'm gonna skip that one. But anyways, I found shelter the way I had to find shelter, right? But Flamingo and Koval, and I also hung out under the now Virgin hotels. It was Hard Rock. Yep. So I was hanging down there a lot, and we would just hustle all day. And those were, those are my friends, and I would do that. I was homeless for 2 years.
So you were in the tunnels for 2 years, or just homeless from 2017 to 2019 was the total?
2017 to to be homeless exactly, it would be December 2016 to October 27th, 2018.
Copy that.
Yep. So I was in the tunnels here and there, but then I'd move to downtown, and then I would stay at people's houses and sell stuff for them and sell drugs. And then I was all over the place. Right. But the end part was, the tunnels, and I had my crew right down there, until, one day it just was too much. And it's hard to explain what happened to me, but so I had always said, I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to do that. If I ever do this, I'm going to get sober. If I ever do this, and
drawing lines in the sand and then walking across them.
Right across them, right? And every single one of them almost, right? And to a point where I had nothing. I had nothing left inside. It wasn't that I lost everything financially or materialistically.
It bypasses material and it goes into a spiritual, who you are as a human being, what you care about, your love, your self-love, your self-care, your humanity, right? Those are the line. I've crossed a million of those lines myself, so I know what you mean.
You just feel like an empty shell of a body. You're not. It was hard. I would drink a ton. I started drinking a ton and doing a lot of drugs, and nothing was working anymore. It just wasn't working anymore. And it used to make me feel so confident, like I could do anything, and now it's not doing anything for me, and I'm scared. I can't hustle another day. I can't be seen by the world because I'm so ashamed of myself, right? I'm just this shell of a person, and it's crazy. I was laying on the tunnel floor early on October 2018, and I just had that feeling like I did when I was little of I'm going to be in the WNBA one day and be a millionaire. I just had this overwhelming feeling of hope. That's all how I can describe it. And I can do this. It was weird, and kind
of like a God shot.
Yes, absolutely. And I just prayed to this thing I didn't really believe in. Right. And I'm just like, God, help me do this. Help me finally be done with this. Right. And I left the tunnels and I laid down on Koval and Flamingo. I just laid down on the side of the road and I just prayed in the sky. Like, God, if you won't kill me, I'm too scared to kill myself. I'm not dying. I'm too afraid to hustle any longer. I can't do this anymore. So the only other option is, to get sober and try this thing out and try to have this life that I've always dreamt about. Right. And so I called a friend. They Ubered me off the street. They let me detox. It was actually an old barber friend of mine. I didn't know him that well, but for some reason I called him because I was like, maybe he'll answer the phone. Nobody else will.
Isn't it weird when, it's I don't know about if this is the right saying for this, but when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. But, I love God shots, and it's not some spirituality is not something we'll get into too heavily. But for me, attraction, when I've needed something the most and I was in the most pain and I've had those moments and the key just churned, the doors just opened. So it was like, I don't know why you called that person either. Obviously you don't know why you called that person, but there's a reason that you called that person because they're in the story.
Yeah.
So you call them and what happened? That's just that's an amazing part. I love that.
Right. Crazy. I just feel like he was so nice to me. You're right. He doesn't know. I haven't screwed him over yet. Right. Maybe he'll be nice. Literally. Maybe he'll be nice to me enough to help me.
Yeah.
So he Ubered me. He sent an Uber. I barely know this guy. He sends an Uber to pick me up. I go to his barbershop and he lets me detox in the back of his barbershop.
Wow.
Well, he locked the doors. He took me to the liquor store because I guess my sister had told him I was an alcoholic. So he was scared that I was going to die. So he took me to the liquor store. Yeah. He took me to the liquor store. It was weird though, because usually I would have been like, I want this and this bottle of vodka, this bottle of hard liquor, but I was like, maybe I'll just have like a tall boy, just to be safe.
Keep the shakes off.
So I just felt like I was ready, right? Or something. And so
I want to key in on there for people who don't understand alcoholism. There are certain things that a person can detox from that will kill them. Methamphetamine is not one of them, but opiates, Xanax and alcohol being two of the primary things that will kill you when you detox from them if you don't detox properly. So alcoholics can die of detox. So what you're talking about here is just kind of having enough medication at that point to not die from, because a lot of times when people, even if they go to jail, but if they go to rehabs or anywhere, they'll get a little bit of a medical detox to keep them from dying. So that's why you're making that choice. But I kind of see that cognition in there. You're like, okay, I don't want to die. So I'm just going to get a tall boy.
Yeah. Yep. And I think being on meth actually helped because I just crashed. It helped me crash out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you ever know about meth, but you just sleep. It's the easiest detox in the world. You sleep and eat.
Sleep and eat. Yep. Sugar and
That's
sleep.
It. So that helped. And then the next day he took me to his family's house and he trusted me enough to be in his house. Crazy, right?
Insane.
But he let me stay in their guest bedroom. I met his family. I ate with his family. And the next day I took a bus to a sober living house that I knew about, and the guy that runs the sober living house, Kurt, love him.
Yeah.
He told me if I could pee clean, he'd let me in the house, and it took a while. So I was just sleeping at friends that I knew were sober. I would crash at their house and then go take the bus right back to sober living and try to pee again. Finally, I was able to stay, right? And that was the last drink I had was October 26th, 2018. So my sobriety date is October 27th, 2018.
Well, that's congratulations.
Thanks.
By the way. It's a long time. Where's the barber?
The barber, I speak to him now and then. I really need to go and thank him because I don't think I've ever really thanked him.
Yeah.
Like I need to, because I kind of just, he did a lot for me, and I don't even think he realizes what he did for me that day.
I'm just trying to think of that, what would I do? I'd say, I don't know, I guess it would depend, but if somebody called me and they're like, hey, I'm homeless right now, I'm trying to kick meth and alcohol, can I come stay at your house? I would be like,
right.
I'll get you a hotel room,
yeah.
But to let you to open his shop and to open his home, I mean, talk about God shots. It's just the person that you need just appears. So that's huge. Yes. So you go into, October 26th,
27th.
27th, you go in and you clean, and then the next day you're sober.
Yeah.
And then how long are you in sober living for?
6 months.
You start working?
Okay, so this is the great part. So I had accumulated a lot of legal charges, right, through being in and out, through my drinking,
comes
right?
with it.
Yes. So
part of the game.
I come into sober living with 3 felonies,
Mm-hmm.
1 fugitive felony warrant, it was a mess, right?
life.
So I'm sober and I'm like, all of life, all of the things I'd done, right, just hits me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, where do I begin? What do I do? I have an ankle monitor. So the last time being in jail, they put an ankle monitor on my ankle, and I still have it on when I'm in sobriety or sober living. So I have to find a job and able to support myself, right? Because we had to pay rent, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't free rides. So the first job I took was literally, I didn't have an ID or anything like that. I had all these warrants. So I was too afraid to get a real job, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to do illegal stuff anymore, right? So I found a guy that owned a pizza place, and he asked me if I wanted to deliver flyers for him under hotel doors in the casinos for 5 cents a flyer.
Stuff. Yeah.
Yep. And I was like, sure. Why not? How many is this going to take to make $50, right? So he gave me a huge stack.
How many
hundreds
is that?
And
I gotta
hundreds,
get my calculator out. Jeez.
Hundreds and hundreds of flyers. I have an ankle monitor on. This is illegal. Oh, I guess this is kind of illegal, right? With security, they'll kick you out. So I'm like dodging security through the stratosphere, through Circus.
I always wondered who was because I've gotten those flyers.
That was me.
Like pizza. That was one. Okay.
So I'm just going as fast as I can, right? Yeah. Whatever I got to do, right? I've always been a hustler my whole life, and I'm like, I'm going to make money. I'm very money oriented, and so yeah, all day long, this is what I'm doing, trying to dodge security. And that was my first job, first real good, normal job-ish.
In a while.
Yeah. And then, I just kept.
Well, really, because I mean, you went in and out of sobriety, but I mean, you played left ball, and then ruined all your jobs because you were in and out of sobriety, being a train wreck. So this, was like your first cognitive job where Mara was present.
Yeah.
And it was flyers. So here, you know what I love about that? So when I got out in 2007 from incarceration, my last time, I worked at a car wash. I went to Casa Grande, which is a halfway house, and I worked at a car wash. And when I got out, I still worked at the car wash, and I worked there for a couple weeks before I went over to the limousine company. But there was a complete lack of ego, right? When you're ready. Right. And because you see these people, they have this ego. I'm too good for that. Like I would never pass out flyers. I would never, I was the dude when the car would come out, I had a rag and I would wipe your car down. It's actually the car wash is still there. I drive by it's on Serene and Eastern. It's one of the only car washes that you drive through and a dude wipes the water spots off. Right. That was me. So just a complete lack of ego. And I love that because when you're ready, you have absolutely no ego and you're willing to do whatever it takes because that's real ego. That's real pride. It says, I'm not too good to do anything. I'll do whatever it takes. And that's that mental toughness that starts to develop when a person's 100% ready to commit to their own lives and start to change things. It's like 5 cents a flyer.
Yeah.
How many you got?
I'll do it.
Let's go.
Yeah, literally.
Let's go. I love that.
I remember the guy, he was like, he would spy on us too to make sure we were actually doing our job. Yeah. He'd be like hiding in the bushes and stuff. Make sure we weren't throwing them away.
I've done flyer drops. It's back in the day, in a couple years, like 3-4 years ago in Vegas, flyer drops were the big thing for solar, and everybody was doing them. And we hired this company, and that was our biggest fear. It was like, how do I know I'm not giving her $4,000 and she's just taking them and dumping them in? So we would go to the neighborhoods after her, and we would drive down the street and make sure that the flyers were all on the doors to try and catch her.
Right? Yeah. Especially have an employee that has an ankle monitor on their ankle.
Got to be trustworthy, right? Yeah. You're going to pass out the flyers.
Man, so after this, I'm facing all these court cases, and my mentor, I'll say at the time, my spiritual advisor, to just do it, just go face this stuff. Just face it. Whatever's going to happen is supposed to happen. Maybe you're supposed to talk about, sobriety in jail. I was like, that sounds terrible. Hopefully that's not my life. Right. But I went into court and I told the judge what I was doing, what I was up to. And I was already supposed to do 6 months. That was already set because I was dodging. I was on the run, right, with this judge. And I faced him again. It was one of the toughest judges in Vegas. And my mentor was there with me in court. And he said, Miss Bess, you owe me 6 months. And he was running it through. And I was like, wait, judge, this is what I'm doing, right? My mentor at the time almost got up and objected. It was so funny. But I don't know what happened. I told him whose sober living I was in, and he said, oh, Kurt. Oh, yeah, I know him. I didn't know he had a woman's house. And he said, I tell you what, Miss Bess, I'm going to give you one more shot, but I'm not messing around this time. I am not.
You closed him.
Yeah, I did.
I was a closer.
No, man, but it was crazy. It was a total. I don't know how and then I went to the other ones, the fugitive felony that I had from leaving the state. And then I went to another one, and it's just like, bam, bam, bam. I'll give you another chance. I'll give you another chance. This is your last chance. This is your last chance. This is your last chance. And I truly believe that, like, I don't know. They knew I was ready. God knew I was ready. So he gave me a shot. I'm not sure, but it was nuts. And so I cleared all that stuff up, and now I'm taking a serving job, and I'm just serving. And I remember I had met Sonia during this time, actually in the beginning, right? Back in 2018 or 19, early on. And I remember she was a server last time I had talked to her, because we had some of the same friends. And I saw her one night, and I said, "What are you doing now? How are you?" And she's like, "I'm good. I'm doing solar." I said, "What do you mean you're doing solar?" And she's like,
So just to give a little content to the listeners, Sonia's my daughter's mom, and she worked with our company selling solar for a while when Mara met her. And before I get too far, there was something I wanted to say. So there was something, and again, not to talk about religion or God shots, but I heard something once that really impacted me. And it said that the reason that I believe is because the instances that have happened to me have been so relentless. They have come at me so many times. There have been so many situations that seemed too far spread to be coincidence, just like unbelievable like a judge, like a barber, like a this, like a that, where you're just like, this has to be some type of divine intervention, because it happened so many times in a row. When I was ready, the doors just started opening. So I love that, because that's what I hear. It's just this relentless thing that comes at you that says, do good and believe, and I will carry you through the fire. So I love that part of the story. So back to Sonia. So you're serving, and there you meet Sonia. She was a server, and now she's selling solar. Is that when you met her? Or you knew her when she was a server?
Yeah, I knew her when a server. But to touch on what you just said, I know we don't want to talk about spirituality too much.
We can talk about it all you want.
Yeah, no,
I'm good with it.
A huge part of my sobriety, right?
I believe in God.
so I didn't, right? The only God I knew was this judgmental God that I grew up with. It was like, damning. Like, I felt like I was, I'm gay, I'm an alcoholic. Like, how does God love me, right? Because I grew up with this God that I believed was, different.
Judgmental.
Yes, right? So when I get into sobriety, I'm pushed to, like, find this higher power, and I said, what does this have to be? You're right. Like, I'm like fighting it. I'm like, it's not what I always thought it was supposed to be. Can it be whatever I want it to be? And whatever you want it to be. And so I wrote, she had me write a list of, like, what I want my higher power to be, and it was literally like non-judgmental, loved me no matter what, like this whole list. And I was like, is this right? She's like, yep, that's perfect. That's your higher power. I was like, oh my God, it's amazing.
Boom.
So yes.
Yeah.
And then she asked me, she said, I want you to look back on your life and see how God's kind of worked in your life, your whole life, and instead of, while I was living it, being like, oh, poor me, God dealt me a bad hand and all these things, right? I'm able to, like, really look at this and seeing how everything had led me to this point. Like, every time I went to jail because I was about to die. Like, literally, I remember almost dying in 118-degree heat on the streets, in a psychosis, not having any food or water or anything.
Saved your life.
Saved my life.
Yeah.
Another time, with me and my ex-girlfriend, she's overdosing and dying on heroin in my passenger seat. And literally, her face is blue. Her lips are blue. I'm on my way to get her more heroin because that's who I am. And a cop pulls us over, takes her to jail. She stayed sober. Yep. Wow. She got 6 months, and she stayed sober from that. Like, I see these things and I'm like, holy shit, like, something has been taking care of me. I am here for a reason.
You kind of realize that life was happening for you instead of to you. Exactly. Because, like, I think a lot of, like, it's our feet that do the walking. These are our choices, right? There's no, like, it's my choice. When my mistakes, everything that I went through, they were my choices. But I love this conversation because I had so many instances really similar. I'll tell this little story. I was in San Quentin in Badger section with this guy. And I remember he was like this spiritual, but he was a singer. And like in a moment, I remember like the moment that I started believing in God, it was the weirdest thing. And I've questioned myself, was that like because I was in this really shitty little tiny cell in this dungy ass prison? Like, but it wasn't. And then when I look back from that moment and I look at all of the crazy stuff that I did and how situations worked out, I have so much gratitude for everything because I really realized that life was happening for me. Like I was causing a massive amount of damage, and it was a lot of it was like being Neo in the Matrix, where like somehow spiritually, like I was dodging these crazy bullets that could have killed me or incarcerated me for life or just done awful, terrible things. And so I realized like, wow, that was there, that was present the whole time. So I really relate with what you're saying, because it's just like, it's powerful. And you look back and that's the relentless nature of it that just like makes you believe.
Yeah, absolutely. It was such a turning point for me in my life and in my sobriety. So, I believed from that moment on, maybe I'll be all right. Maybe if I just, trust the process, right? That we talk about, that I'll be all right. I've made it this far. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm meeting Sonia. I had known her when she she was serving, and I saw her again, and I asked her what she was doing.
Were you girls working together?
No. Nope. I just seen her from mutual friends.
Sure.
Yep. So, I asked her what she was doing now, and she said she was doing solar. And I said, "What do you do for that?" She says, "I would do door to door." And I was just like, "That is terrible." I was like, "There's no way in hell you're such a pretty girl. Why would you do that to yourself?
You're gonna get raped or killed."
Crazy. Yes.
It's stupid, dumb idea,
dumb,
bad.
Nope. Yep. So I probably laughed at her behind her back that day, and
what an idiot!
What an idiot! And then I hadn't seen her for a while, and I remember I added her on Facebook and Instagram, and I just followed her life. And I remember seeing a post of like her in I don't remember, some islands with like her brand new Mercedes and like this amazing life, and I'm like, what
is going on?
So I texted her and I said, "Sonia, are you still doing solar?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "I want to do it." And I was serving at this time, right? I was been serving this whole time. But everything in me, like throughout these, years, I'm sober, and I'm just like, I want more. I want more. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I just want more from this burning. Just like I want more, so whatever I got to do it. And so I saw this life with Sonia, and she said, "Come in for an interview." I came in for an interview, and they hired me, and I started with Arcadia November 1st, 2020.
Was it me?
Arcadia. It was Arcadia. Yes, you, Lee.
It was me.
It was Lee and Misty and Alec and all those people at the time. But you guys hired me on. Yep.
So, I'm going to shoot back to Sonia in a second, because I think there's something really cool in there. So here you come, in you come.
Yeah.
And I remember you, and I was like, there's a weird thing that happens when you've been in the industry for a while. You kind of have this ability to spot one like you, right? Where you're like, it's a weird industry, because intrinsically the people that are successful, generally in my experience, have a few things. One thing that they have is they have an abundance mindset, but the other thing that they have is grit, right? Like doors aren't the toughest thing in life they had faced. And that's why we see a lot of the LDS members be really successful indoors, is because, as young men. So this is weird. I was just in Sacramento and I saw 2 LDS girls. I didn't know LDS girls did missions, but they go out on these missions, and it's, you're a young man or a young woman, off you go, you get shipped off, and you get a bicycle, and you don't have a lot of money, and you have to figure it out, and you go knock doors for a couple of years, and it creates grit. We don't have that story. We have another type of grit. But when you came in, you had the thing, and I recognized it right away. And I was attracted to that thing in you, and we talked a lot, and I'm like, you got the thing, dude. And you went out and hit it. And so how does that part of the process go for you?
Oh, man. So I was so excited to start this job, you guys. I was like telling everybody that I was going to come in and kill it, and I was going to be like rich, and I like have all these things.
Yeah.
And I just literally, it looked so easy. I was like, oh, that's nothing. I'm gonna come in and kill this thing. And I came in my first week. I got 2 deals my first Saturday. So I remember I made $3,000 my very first Saturday, and I was like, this is easy right? Peasy. This is so easy.
I got this.
And I went and I kept working, but I didn't know at the time what I know now, of course. Like, you don't see it then. And I remember sitting in class, and I remember everyone teaching about read books, become a person of value. You always said that, like, it always stuck with me. Like, I want you to become a person of value, and the money come with it. And I didn't know what that meant, right? At the time, I just saw money. And so I
money follows value.
Yes, and I didn't know what you meant by being a person of value. So I just kept. I had a lot of grit. That's true. I would work Monday through Saturday, and I would just go door to door. But I wasn't listening to what you guys were teaching me. I just thought that if I hit enough doors, all this money would come with it. But what I was doing is I was just knocking as many doors as I can, bulldozing people, talking to them.
Just to give you a shout out, you had the thing we can't teach. Mara was a pit bull. Mara would bulldoze the shit out of people, and she would get accounts, like she would get appointments, but no one would sell. Nobody would sit.
No, and I was telling Misty before we started the podcast today that I remember that December and January, I think I set 40 ACs and one sold. Yeah. One sold. And I remember during that time, I was just so mad. I was filled with so much envy because this job, it's easy to get some envy and jealousy in this job. So I lived in it. I lived in so much, and I was just so mad. I was so jealous of everybody around me.
Whose fault was it? Everybody's.
Everybody else's.
I've heard this story.
It's your fault.
Tell
it's Alex's fault. It's everybody's fault. Ruben's fault. Amber's fault. All these people you guys don't know. They all suck, right?
Bastards.
I'm way better than them. I work harder than them. I work longer than them. Why are their deals closing and mine not? And everything was everybody else's fault. And I was pissed, and I was like cursing at my phone. I would throw my phone, and I'd go home and like yell at everybody around me. Everyone had to deal with this shit, right? And I lived in so much negativity during this time. I was just so pissed off, and I ended up quitting. Yeah. I couldn't. I just did it to myself, and I didn't realize what I was doing. I literally thought in my mindset, in my paradigm, that it was everybody else's fault. And I went straight back to when I was younger. Like, God dealt me a bad hand. Why me? Why me? Why me? This is a cycle in my life, you know? And it was just, I felt so defeated, but within myself, and I ended up quitting, you know?
Yeah.
And
so I want to key on that because I got mad at you. I was mad because I knew you had it. And I remember pulling you aside, you know, and as my mom used to say, if I'm telling you something and you don't understand, it's my fault. So I felt guilty. I felt like, dude, how do I teach this woman who has this rot? So I was on doors when I first started with Pat Mendez. And the first door I knocked, I'm like, my name's Lee. I'm the alarm manager. Can I come in? And the dude's like, no way. And I remember Pat like laughing and walking me back to the car. And he's like, that's the thing I can't teach people, is that grit, that thing. And I knew you had that same thing. And that's why I was so upset, because I'm like, if you would just slow down and let me teach you prospecting and qualifying better, where we're just getting you into more legitimate, good conversations. But I couldn't break through. And you were in your head, you're doing the, you know, this is something that we all go through as reps, right? Because at some point we're all reps. And I've been through it a million. I've taken myself off text threads, and I'm like, these bastards, they're all winning. I'm off. I'm out, right? Yep. Mad at people, jealous of people. Like it's part of the game, because you have it's such high pressure situation on yourself, right? Because you're in control of your finances. Yeah. And when you left, I was upset. Like I was like, my feelings, I don't know that you hurt my feelings. My feelings were just hurt because I'm like, I knew you had the thing, and I wanted you to have it because I knew your story. And I'm like, dude, I want you to have this present. I want you to have this gift. And you left. And so just really quick, the thing I wanted to talk about Sonia was you, and not to tell her story, but you saw the Mercedes and the pictures and all of that stuff. And, you know, Sonia went through a really big struggle in trying to figure out doors and sales herself. And so, you know, one of my original mentors, Casey, when we did his podcast, he talked about the fruits and the roots. Like each person that has success has really, really deep roots, right? And so people see these things, these achievements and the cars and all of these different things, but they don't see the struggle. So what you saw at that moment was you saw Sonia's car, and she just bought a Mercedes, and she's got a bunch of money, and she's just moving into a house, and she's wearing Gucci shoes and all this, like, you know, like especially when we all first, me too, right? When we first start making money, I'm buying some Gucci. Right. Man. So you saw that, but you didn't see the months and months of struggles, right? And so at this point, the reason I wanted to key on that is because at this point, you had to come in and go through your own struggle. So I love that, because it's like, you know, people really do see the tip of the iceberg, but they don't see what's underneath it. And I see that with people with you now, where they're like, oh, Mara's doing all the, you know, 50, all these, it's amazing. And it's like, but they don't see everything that I saw. Yeah. I got to see you grow. So there you go. Off, you quit. I don't even think you came and talked to me.
No, I didn't.
We texted.
Yeah, I did everything against really what mad. I was taught.
I was like, I was like, really? You didn't even break up with me in person.
No,
you texted me like a Tinder
Misty.
date. Yeah, Misty.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm sick. I don't want to do this. I was scared. And I was just a pansy, right? Yeah. And I'm just so filled with so much self-pity, right?
Yeah.
It's me. I was like, what do you guys don't deserve this. You guys didn't help me succeed. You blah, blah, blah. Like in my head, anyone.
Yeah,
It didn't matter.
Yeah.
It didn't matter who it was.
The world.
Yeah. Right?
Outside circumstances.
Yeah, I just did the crappy little, I'm sick, I don't think this job's for me, right?
Yeah.
And I go back to serving. And I'm telling you, the failure, I don't even know if I have felt that hard of failure when I started serving again. Like knowing that I had given up such an opportunity, like just that feeling. I remember I was working at the Cheesecake Factory and I would drive to work every day just with so much like, like, why did I do this? I'm doing the same job I've done for 20 years now. There's no growth. I'm going to leave with $200 maybe, $250 tops. And this is going to be my life.
Yep.
And I was so down on myself over this. And I was at work and I'd be like, oh, I'm serving tables again. Like, wow. And so anyways, I had to focus on being of service, really. Like during this time when I'm on this break or whatever in serving, I just dove into my recovery. And my mentors, you need to be of service. You need to go back to the roots. You need to go back to the beginning, right? Why are you here? And it's because I was helping someone else. I was being of service. And I dove into that, and I was helping, other alcoholics at this time, and I just got out of myself, and it just kind of switched around for me. I don't know what happened. I think, I just, God, and being of service is what saved me from this,
Giving.
from this negative self-talk and this negative beliefs and my paradigm. And I was sharing my story kind of similar to like I am right now. And Sonia had been at the same place I was, and she heard me sharing. And it's crazy how this all happened because I never saw her in these gatherings, right? I never saw her. And I didn't see her very often, but she happened to be here this night that I was sharing.
Yeah.
And she took me aside after, and she said, I love the way you share. She said that you have that thing.
Yeah.
I was like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. She's
thing.
like, there's just a thing.
Yeah.
And I can't explain it what it is, but will you come back and work for us? And I want to make you my number 2.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean? You mean you're number 2? What does this mean? Do I get to be a closer? Because that's all I ever wanted. Like I remember when I started in November 2020, I wrote my goals, and it was be top. I wrote down when I was a setter. I didn't know anything about solar, but I wrote in my top 10 goals, I want to be a top closer. I want to be a top closer in the next 3 years. I want to be the top closer for Arcadia. I'm going to have my Acura TLX that I wanted so bad.
So everybody knows, Mara's the top closer in the Las Vegas office.
Dude, it's
to
crazy.
Date. So she's achieved her goal.
Yeah, nuts. And I remember when she offered me this position, I was just so grateful. I just couldn't believe it. And I said, do you think Lee and Missy will take me back? I left really shitty. Like, you think they will?
Broke up with them like Tinder dates.
Yep. And Sonia was like, I'll take care of them. I was like, okay. I said, you swear to me. I said, you promise you won't. I remember I put so much on Sonia too. I was like, don't let me fail. And she's like, I will not let you fail. And I said, I want to be exactly like you. I want you to teach me exactly how you do it because you're the best. And she's like, I'm going to make you the best. And I believed in her. I did.
Sonia's
I believed
a beast.
in her.
Yes. She's a beast.
I did. And I went in the office at Cheesecake Factory and I said, guys, I got my dream job. I was telling everybody, this is my dream job. I can't believe I got this. Like, I don't know how. Like, God is good, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I quit. And they said, they weren't even mad at me. They're like, congratulations, that's so cool, go kill it. I didn't know what the future was going to look like. I had never closed before. I can barely cut and paste. I don't know what computer loans, nothing. I don't know this shit, right?
APRs.
No, what is that, right? But I just put everything in I trusted in Sonia and I believed in her. And so I took the leap and I came right back, man. And crazy.
Yeah. So what's interesting about that time for me, and I say a lot of the same things because it's just true. Sales is a language, right? And so, I was in a recruiting meeting yesterday and I told the guy, well, if I was going to offer you $1 million to learn French in 6 months, how much attention would you pay to it? He said, a lot. I said, well, if it was me, I would get an airplane ticket to France and get an Airbnb for the next 6 months. And I would get Rosetta Stone. And then I would sign up for college courses in France to take French. Because if I spent $60,000 to get $1 million in 6 months by learning French, I said, if you take sales, the language of sales that seriously, at some point in your career, it will pay you $1 million. it's inevitable in our industry that within the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, people just become high value individuals and they earn more and more and more each year because they speak the total language of sales, from knocking to selling to recruiting to training to retaining to managing to teams. They just understand their paradigm expands. And so what I loved about you in that moment, you were another human being. Like, you were focused. You were meeting Sonia after work and going to her house, and you had the paper and you were like, had her pitch, because Sonia's pitch is good. She's a closer in the house. Mm-hmm. She's a good door knocker too. Sonia's a well-rounded individual. And you were just like stuck to her like glue. I mean, we went out, we did some team dinners, and you two were just like, you literally had moved into sales land, and you were like, I'm going to speak sales 100%. So your determination and your grit had changed because you left the opportunity. And it's hard, I see it a lot with people who don't make it. It's hard to be in an office with people who are making 100, 2, 3, 4, 500,000, $750 million. And you're like, they're doing the same thing that I was doing, and I quit and I couldn't make it. And that sucks. And so that's kind of like, if I'm not mistaken, like that's your paradigm when you're serving tables. You're like, shit, I didn't do it. And when you came back, you were on fire, man.
Oh man, it was crazy. I came back. I don't know. It's just like my recovery. Like that's all I saw when I, back in October 27th, 2018, when I came in, it was tunnel vision.
Yeah.
This is all I see.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what it is. It's not to get another girl back. It's not to get this job. It's just, I need my recovery. I need to be sober. And it was the same with this. I came back in. I was like, I have to be successful. I don't give a shit. Like, whatever it takes. And I literally spent as much time as I could with Sonia. I'd be like, can I come over? Can I come over? Can I come over? She's like, fuck. I remember one time she yelled at me. I'd be up till like 2 a.m, just like going over her clothes, YouTubing solar installations, YouTubing what's going on in the world, YouTubing the tax credit and like everything in different states. And like, part of my clothes is because I know that stuff. I know the install. I know the verbiage. I know the word tracks. I know the stuff because I did it on my own, know, and I took the time to do that. And I remember I texted Sonia at like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. one night. And I was like, what is the answer to this question? She said, Mars, shut it down. Are you kidding me? Go to bed.
It's 2.
Go to bed.
Yeah.
And I was just obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Obsessed.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a crazy time.
Well, I love that because that's, I have that in me. Like, one of I'm huge on legitimacy for my sales cycles. So knowing everything is very important to me, like feeling like I can serve my clients well. Some of the stuff that I want to touch on you is I want to get your experience in this. So, the sales lineage that I originated with was with Casey Bob, Poppy, Bodie Gardner, those guys at Vivint. And, I would go in with those guys in rooms in Vivint and just watch their Instas and hear them talk. And it was just servitude, servitude, servitude. It was the whole person paradigm. It's I work for my team members. They don't work for me. How do I get up in the morning and serve my people? My customers are my reps, right? So how do I serve, right? And there's a saying, if you want to impress your customers, impress the people who impress your customers. And that's my customer. So, I come from that lineage of servitude. And the really amazing thing about, when we were with John Murphy at Arcadia, he was a servant heart. He's an amazing human being. And Seth Grinney and Cam Brown, Doug Robinson, Luke Toon from Legacy now, they all have that servant heart. So everything that I've always promoted and pushed has been that servant heart. And when you were in originally your first go through, it was very selfish. It was Mara, 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 right? And I've been in that stage of mind. And what changed was once you learned, you started serving. But I want to talk about some of the things that have changed you as a human being that I've watched. I want your experience on reading, Sunday planning, goal planning, knocking with team members, teaching, giving, because you've applied a lot of the things that we do to help other people in recovery to what we do here in solar or door to door. We serve other human beings. We give to them. We teach them. We love them. We consider their whole person paradigm. So what have those things done to help change your life? Some of the habits that you've picked up, and a lot of it I know is from me, but from other sources too. And I'm not taking credit for most of the stuff that I do because I learned it from the people that I admire and love. But what of those things have you picked up, and how has that changed your paradigm on life and the career and giving and just growing as a human?
Oh man. So yeah, I'm so great. Yeah, it's just nuts. This job, this opportunity, right, is just the fact that you taught me since I came in to write out your goals and to read books and to be of service and be help to your team and be helping someone become a person of value too, right? Yeah. That's changed my life mixed with my recovery. Like my life has literally become a fairy tale because of both of these things together. This career and my recovery are so intertwined with one another. It's like the same thing. So when I came back, I promised myself I was going to put all this stuff, I was going to implement all this stuff again. Everything you guys were teaching me before. Like it's the same as recovery. I wasn't listening to them before, so I kept drinking again, right? And so I come in and you're telling me to do this stuff, but I'm not implementing it, so I end up quitting. So I'm like, shit, what am I, I keep doing this to myself. Maybe I should listen, and put my ego away and just listen to what they have to say. And so when I came back in, I remember texting you and texting other people, like, what are some good books that you can recommend to me? Mm-hmm. How do you do your goals? Anything, like anything I can get. And I went out and I bought all these books. I got the High Performance Planner. I came in this position with Sonia having this team, and I just dove into helping the team like right away. Like, okay, I'm setting, I don't know how I'm going to ever become this top closer, but I'm just going to do what I learned in recovery, and I'm just going to be of service to the team. So I was just going out. I started with reading a book. So I read a book every morning and every night. I would get, Think and Grow Rich, Goals by Brian Tracy is my number one favorite book I've ever read.
I love it.
The way he breaks down goal setting and your mindset. I'm reading that again right now, actually. What it's done, it's trained my mind to think in abundance. It's trained my mind to think positively. If I'm always taking in this content, my brain just switches to this abundant, positive mindset where I'm just like, everything's great. It's just
everything's
changed
possible
as a person. And I'm like, the more I did it, the more I was like, wow, I'm in a lot better mood. I feel like I'm like more confident. I feel like, I believe in myself a little bit more. Where's all this coming from? It couldn't be from all the goals and the books and all that other stuff you guys were talking about, right? But it was. And I started, asking questions about goal setting. And I was introduced to this planner, the High Performance Planner, where I write out my goals every single morning, and I wrote out my goals I go back at night and, review my day. I set out every single day what my day is going to look like by the hour, who I'm going to reach out to, who am I going to help? Like, I just started doing this every single day. And it's crazy how different of a human being I am from, I started doing this a year ago, June 1st of 2021. And now it's August. So a year later, my life is unbelievable. But, goal setting, reading books, and being of service to my team is what's changed my life. And just the money, just like you've always said, just came with it because I started becoming a person of value, right? Like, being a person of value is helping someone else, like putting your ego aside, like helping someone else I love I forgot what book it's in, but allowing someone else to get as good and better than you and replacing you and taking your spot. Like to allow that and want that for somebody is crazy, because my whole life, I'm number one. I have to be number one through sports, through everything. Like my ego is so big, like no one's going to outshine me. I have to be the best, blah, 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 blah. I'm a one person team, and now today, just like, seeing Elijah grow, seeing the people that have just wanting to move up and like change their life, reading books, setting goals for themselves. I have people on the team now that reach out to me, how do you do goals? How do you do goal setting? What is that? Is that planner? That means more to me than the Big Check Friday, right? When someone when I have them calling me, asking for advice of how to change their life, it just means everything.
So I love that. So, one of the things that I heard, and Jeff, Poppy and Casey said it a lot, but it was, don't overestimate what you can do in a year and underestimate what you can do in 5 years. I'm coming up on my 6th year in the industry, and not much like you, exactly like you. When I came in, I was exposed. Most industries are not like our industry. They're filled with people who are self-centered, who have massive egos, and there's some of that in our industry, but not in our circle of people. And I just was exposed to these completely different human beings, to a completely different mentality. Like, anything is possible if you believe in yourself. This job is an equal opportunity employer for men, women, age, race, doesn't matter. if you come in here and apply these certain techniques, much like some other stuff that we know, and this is another thing that I really love, like it's a simple formula, but nobody said it was going to be easy, right? For doors. But I did the same thing. They read, they did Sunday planning, they had goals. They worked a certain amount of hours, and that's one thing that I always held myself to when I was knocking was my hours, the goals and the books. And over the last 6 years, those things have just compounded massively. And the more value I've gained, the more value I've been able to add to more people. I'm really excited to see, it's been amazing watching what you've done in a year, but to think of, so this is what blew my mind when I looked back. I'm like, and now I think, well, it's 5 years. Don't underestimate the 10 years, but think about your next 4 years, right? To get to that 5-year mark, the human that you're going to be with this type of compound effect, these type of habits, these types of goals, serving other people, teaching other people, you just grow as a human being. What we do in the industry, I think, to help other human beings is we go through all of the same situations. Right? I've cried on doors. Doors didn't make me cry, but I was crying because I remember sat in front of a house for 2 hours because of life. Life was so heavy and so overwhelming that day. I couldn't get out of the car, and it wasn't just doors. I was just busted. I've knocked senseless, slept in my car, just like insane from fear and anxiety and financial pressures. I've wanted to quit. I'm going to get a real estate license. I'm going to go work at Starbucks. I'm going to anything but this, and just never quitting. But by going through those things, I'm able to help other people go through those things. And that's going back to basketball, being able to move the ball down the court because you've been through all of the situations, you've done the hard things, you've done the tough things. And I've just absolutely loved watching you go through it. And I'm so excited for your next 5 years. I want to review some stuff here real quick. So now that everybody's heard Mara's story, in the year that she's been back, in the last 12 months, we ran these numbers. These are the real numbers. In the year that she's been back, just the year to date, so from last August, July to last July, 100 deals installed.
It's crazy.
Year to date, 2022, we're at 70 deals installed. Everybody out there understands that to get to 100 deals, it's a piece of work, right? When you're leading a team and people, and I see you knocking with people every week, serving your people, doing one-on-ones, doing all the stuff that we do, changing your life. So let's dive into, where's your personal life out now? So we got Elisa, your fiance, you're engaged.
Absolutely.
What does life look like now? So the money's great, right? Money's the tip of the iceberg. It's nice to have it. It helps. But what does life look like now in your personal life? How is life?
Oh my gosh. It's like I tell everyone all the time, I'm living a fairy tale, and I literally have to like pinch myself to be present and to realize how I'm living. Like when we walked in today, to get up back on that, when we were walking in today, me and you, there's 2 homeless people outside in the alley.
Yep.
And you pulled up and you're like, oh, this is 2 different worlds right here. And I said, yeah, but we've lived both of them.
We have.
And look at us now. Like
100%.
Kitty corner from this office is where I used to pick up drugs. Like I see it every time I leave the office today.
Yeah.
Like, so it's just, it's amazing. My life today is insane. That family that didn't want anything to do with me, they wouldn't allow me on their porch or their yard, they would call the cops if I entered their property, are now my best friends. They beg me to come visit them. They allow,
you're freaking awesome,
dude. But it's like, wow, like they're so proud of me, and they tell me all the time, they're like, I'm so proud of you. And it's like, man, I don't know, I didn't do that. I don't know how this happened to me. I don't know how this happened so fast. I literally just have watched people before me and watched their lives change, and I just, how do you do it? How did you do it? How do you do it? And I hope I'm that for someone, and that's all I can hope for. But also, I met my dream girl. Like, totally, I'm engaged to my dream girl. We're getting married March 23rd, 2023. We're going to Greece for a honeymoon.
She's awesome. I've met her.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. She's amazing.
Totally
she's
different from the other girls.
Yeah.
This one's rad.
Opposite of me as well, so that's important. Super sweetheart. Love her to death. We have two dogs. And through just my sobriety and everything like that, the number one thing in my life is I've cleared up so much separation, all the damage I've caused. I can go, excuse me, I can go anywhere today, right? And just feel like a part of. I don't have to dodge anymore and look behind my back or look behind my shoulder of like, just feeling like a piece of shit, right? Today
Yeah.
I have a little bit more self-worth. I have a little bit more confidence. And, that dad that, raised me, my hero, he struggled with addiction too. He was a drug addict most of my life. After I left high school, he started drugs, and I was able to clear separation up with him. My hero growing up before he died of a drug overdose a year and a half ago. And
Sorry to hear that.
I was able to mend that before he passed, all because of my recovery. And I don't know, man. I have a beautiful life today. My family's strong. I have a lot of amazing friends. You two have been huge mentors in my life. One of the top 5 for sure, top 3. You guys are amazing. I just love the relationships I have, and I love the fact that people look up to me today, which is insane. I'm still like, really, me? I was a dirty kid just sleeping on top of the Todd Motel 4 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, how did this happen so
Rags
fast?
to riches.
Right. And I just put my trust in this, and I put my trust in my mentors, and I just did what they did. And my life is literally a fairy tale today. And I've gone through, of course, the ups and downs. I think that's the beauty of it. Like, when I see someone that's like sitting in their car and won't get out of it, and they're struggling, they're calling me, I was like, that was me too. Like, I remember sitting in the car crying. I would cry. I would sit on the side of the road crying because doors were so hard. They were so hard sometimes. Like, they are so mean to me. Like, everything that went in my head, right? They don't like me because I'm a woman. They don't like me because I'm gay. They could tell I'm gay.
Tattoos, short hair.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Everyone. So I'd sit and cry. Like, this is so hard. And then you work your ass off, and you get 5 solid appointments, and they would all cancel. And then, you're closing deals, and they're canceling on you, and like all this shit. But like, really, like, when you look at the bigger picture, like, that doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm learning. I'm still learning today. Like, when I go through shit,
it's happening for you, not to you. Again, it's the same things.
Yep.
I love it. So we'll close out soon. What I wanted, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on here is because, I'm really lucky in this office we have a lot of very strong, successful women in this office. You, Misty, Kelly, Lorena, Teresa, and others that I'm not counting, but it's really cool to me to have so many high level empowered women. So that was part of it. I wanted you to be able to, get your story out to other women in the industry. But guys think the same thing too. You know what I thought when Justin Mott came to me with his check from Vivint? You knock doors? That's stupid. You're an idiot. That's like dumb. And then, I want to go back to that moment. So for people who are listening to this who don't knock doors, or for the women who are indoors that have just started and are going through struggles, my message is different. Like, I think if I was at Presidential Limousine and I went to a recruiting meeting with John Taylor, who I have an immense amount of gratitude for with Vivint. John in that office changed my life. And I sat down at Joe's Crab. He wine and dined me with some chilled crab. And I was going to work 2 jobs. I was going to work Presidential Limousine in the day, selling limos, corporate limos. And I was going to go sell alarms at night. And he said, that's ridiculous. You're trying to put your ladder up against 2 walls. He said, just come in here. This is what we can make. And I believed him. And I bought it. And I have often thought, and it was the ego thing. I was 40. I'm going to go knock doors. That's stupid. That's lame. But when I sat with somebody who was highly successful, Justin was successful, I did it. And me and Misty were just talking the other day. What if I would have said no? I'd probably still be at Prez, making 70, 80 grand a year, selling limousines behind a desk. Totally different life if I would have just sloughed off doors, or thought that I couldn't do it, or let my fear hold me back, or sat at the table of comfort for too long and just stayed behind my computer and my little sales and my concierge and all the stuff I had at the limo company, which I was used to. But I jumped off a cliff. I'm like, it literally, for me, that's what it felt like. I had to give my car back. I had a crappy little Volkswagen that I bought. I had a mortgage. Misty had just moved in. I had a 3-year-old daughter. I wasn't going to get paychecks anymore. I had to go sell alarms. I was terrified. So it was literally jumping off a cliff for me. Then I had to believe in myself. And I had just a tremendous amount of fear, but I put it behind me and it pushed me forward. So what is your message for people who are thinking about it, or who are in it, or who are in their first year and are going through their struggles? Like, how do you feel about all that now?
Oh my gosh. It's crazy that you said that, because I was just thinking that the other day. I was talking to Elisa about this. I said, what if a year and a half ago I would have said no to Sonia? Like,
yeah,
like if I would have been too scared to just been like, no, like, that's insane to think about of where I am at today. And it's
You'd
like,
still be a Cheesecake Factory.
I would still be a Cheesecake Factory. That's nuts. And I literally talk about this all the time. What if I would have said no?
Yeah.
What if I would have said no? And I tell people that want to, thinking about this career, like, just believe in it.
Yeah.
Believe in it, or find someone that you look up to that believes in it, and just do what they do. And I found that. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for Sonia, and I'm so grateful for you too, that I believed in you guys enough when I couldn't believe in myself. So, and burning the boats, like what you talk about, I had to believe that this was my only focus. It was my tunnel vision when I came back, and it had to be. I was obsessed with it. I just did whatever it took. And if you're doing that, and if you have a burning desire, like Brian Chaser talks about, if you have that burning desire, and this is the only way, and you burn the boats, there's no other way but to be successful. And 100%. I truly believe that. I used to hear you guys talk about that, and I was like, such hocus pocus, mumbo, corny bullshit. Like, what are you saying? Like,
no plan B.
It's a sales tactic. You're in sales. That's what's happening, but it's true. And I lived it. And I've literally am living it right now. I'm living my dream today because I just believed in it. I believed in this. I believe in the product. I believe in solar. I mean, look what's happening with the tax rate and everything like that. I had to believe in it. And I had to believe in my leaders. And I truly do. And I believe in you guys. And it's changed my life. So my message is to just believe in it.
Believe in it. And so one of the things when I came into the Vivint office, I asked John, who's the best? And the best was Pat Mendez, buff Pat Mendez. This dude is a monster. He's here in Vegas still. He was on one of the Fiancé shows. He's a rad dude. I'm trying to get him back in.
90 Day Fiancé?
90 Day Fiancé. Love Pat Mendez. He's just a beast of a salesman. But I said, who's the best? And John said, I'm going to put you with Pat. And I said, I'm just going to do every single thing that Pat does. Mm-hmm. And then I started seeing the leaders, and I'm like, what do you do? And Casey was like, I read books and I do Sunday planning. I'm like, well, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. And then what I saw from the people who were successful, that were the top 3 or 4 people on the board, was that they knocked more than 8 hours a day. And I said, well, that's what I'm going to do. And so it's not just this come in and just kind of flim flam or whimsically do kind of whatever you want. This is an industry where, Cortez was standing on the shore and sent somebody out to burn the ships. And when he turned around, he says, we're going to beat the Mayans or we're going to die. And that's what they did. And when you have that type of no plan B mentality, we say these things to people, but they don't ingest them. And that's why we have successful people in the room and unsuccessful people in the room. Because the people who burn the ships and go all in 100% and follow the people in front of them who are successful and do those things, we really see come in and change their lives. It has been just a pleasure to watch you come through everything that you've gone through, from the anxieties and the fears and the doors and the closings and the bad closings and the good closings and the mediocre closings, to becoming just an absolute beast. I think we ran the number, it's like an 87 or 88% retention rate from close to install. Like you're a monster. So, I just attribute that to your hard work and your dedication to the craft, and you go in and you teach your clients and you love your clients and you work for your clients and you serve your clients and you serve your team and you do all those things. So just super impressive individual. I hope everybody has enjoyed the show with Mara, because this is truly a story of not just rags to riches, but mental and spiritual turmoils into a completely different human being that's highly successful in all areas of her life. So thanks for coming on, Mara.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right,
it's been a pleasure.
I love you.
Love you too.
All right.